everybody. We're going to be doing Sticky Fingers by the Rolling Stones today.
Yes.
Probably I would say probably the peak of their career in terms of original music.
They're definitely hitting a stride right here. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's a lot of
1971.
there's a lot of hits on this album. Past two albums, a lot of their biggest hits, so they're definitely on a roll.
Uh-huh.
And then there's also a lot of changes happening as far as a band with members getting kicked out and then dying and
Yeah.
them just figuring stuff out as a band. And also it's almost like freeing in a way because during the 60s there's a lot happening, there's a lot of experimentation, and this is definitely, as far as the sound, they kind of get back to basics and more of a raw thing. But then also the Beatles broke up, so then there's not a band for them to be compared to anymore. So it's sort of freeing in that way, like a post-Beatles Rolling Stones after, being compared to them constantly.
I think that there's a ton of shedding skin, like in terms of this kind of album and this era in music. Yeah, one is the Beatles breaking up, and then two is that they lost their rhythm guitar player, and they essentially kicked him out because he was like going too hard in the drugs, which is like insane to me because how could you be going harder than like Mick Jagger in like in that drug culture? But apparently he was.
It happens.
Yeah. So he was
Dave Mustaine with Metallica.
Yeah. Or the singer for fucking Pink Floyd too as well.
Oh yeah, Sid.
Yeah, Sid Barrett. So essentially he was like pulling a Sid Barrett and they like kicked him out and ended up replacing him with a different rhythm guitar player. And that, along with their original manager being fired, was a big part of this album as well. I know that their contract basically expired with their previous record company and manager, and they decided to take this album, I believe, independent, but they at least switched managers. So there's just a ton of like shedding skin like happening on this album, but it just kind of plays out really well, I think, for the Rolling Stones. They just like handle it with grace.
Yeah. It's weird to think about all of those like sort of social aspects of their band happening and then them still kind of putting out this classic music.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's kind of like one of the things about the Rolling Stones that makes them amazing is like, I mean, just even look at them today, like no matter what gets thrown at them, they're just able to just like roll with it. Yeah. They're just rolling with the punches, with the stones being thrown at them, and kind of just always like focus. One main thing too that kind of stands out is that they're always just like really focused on the music. Like they kind of just like are able to just like drop all that shit and like just make like a great fucking song,
Yeah, which like that is a lot because unless you're really deep diving into this material or like them as a band, you know the brand and you know the songs. So as far as like which members are appearing on what albums, the name and the music, and the music lives up to the name and the brand.
Yeah, totally. I mean, this is the most Rolling Stones album. Like even just from the cover, you can tell.
Yeah, that was another thing I had to say. This and Exile, but like they're really, as far as like what you would think and almost like their groove and what they sound like live as a band, this type of album really captures that energy. And it's really like, I guess, like bar. It's really good bar rock. It's like exactly what I want to hear when I'm in a bar. Is like are these types of songs.
Yeah, I think that kind of you can kind of trace that back to that whole argument of like, oh, the Beatles versus the Stones. Like, why was it always the Beatles versus the Stones? Why wasn't it like the Beatles and the Stones? Like, why were they so compared to each other? And I think it's because, you know, the Rolling Stones, they're like the perfect fucking rock band. Like, I don't even want to say bar band because that's almost like deducing them down to something that, you know, they're more than that. You know, they're just like the perfect rock band, while like the Beatles were more of like the most, you know, cutting edge, like experimental rock band, and they're really different in a lot of ways, you know. So it became this comparison thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
they're both
especially with
fucking
some of
awesome.
the yeah, most definitely. Um, I guess they shine more, I guess, in this kind of light because you look at the '60s. A lot of people that are making music are really just like experimenting and figuring stuff out. Distortion was like a new concept to a guitar, you know,
Right.
electric guitar sound. So yeah, the Beatles, great at writing pop songs, you know, band. They start experimenting in the studio, and then the Rolling Stones. In this, it's like they've made so many albums, they've made so many songs. Um, they could kind of start experimenting in different ways. But yeah, they've been making so there must be some like relaxing nature to this, you know.
Yeah, I think there's more of a laid back energy for sure, but at the same time, like that doesn't detract from like the songs, you know, at all. Like these are very highly written songs by like skilled musicians. It's just insane, like that they're so laid back, cool, and collective, you know, and they're able to just like handle all the shit. Not to mention all the fucking partying they were doing at this time. Like that cannot be like overstated. Like the Beatles, they probably went, you know, kind of hard, but like the Rolling Stones, like, I mean, this album is like kind of where they started doing like heroin and like like the hard
Yeah.
shit, you know,
Yeah.
they're really, I don't know, it's just like they have this like calm, cool, collective energy to them, and I think, you know, one main thing that I had from this album is that it's just like a testament to like the Stones like versatility. You know, they're able to easily weave between rock, pop, blues, soul, fucking psychedelia, and even country, right? Like the way that no other band could, you know, and
Hmm.
probably ever will. You know, they can. It almost sounds effortless, and that's the thing with a lot of Stones material in general is it sounds like effortless. You know, whether it's like Charlie Watts is playing, you know, or you know, the way that Mick Jagger like sings a verse, you know, or the way that Keith Richards plays a riff. Like it sounds effortless, but like if you really think about it, like they're actually like mixing, you know, musical styles so intensely. But that kind of relaxed nature of it makes it sound really natural and like good to hear.
Yeah, I think a really great example of a song. I mean, I'm obviously jumping ahead because this is the last song on the album, but "Moonlight Mile,"
Yeah.
just all those different elements, and it almost sounds like a modern song, like you know, almost like a modern like indie song. I
Yeah.
think it was based off a guitar thing that Mick Jagger was doing that he called like Japanese style, and then that other guitar player that got brought in. I don't even think Keith Richards was present for any of this.
No, he
He kind of took
wasn't.
he took a part of it and like made it into a song, and then all that. It's just so nice. I think
Yeah,
great
actually,
tune. It kind of reminds me of like you know Animal Collective or something like it's very I don't know.
no, that's funny that you say that because I actually had it typed down in my notes that the verse, kind of when like Watts is kind of hitting the toms, and they're kind of just like droning on with the guitars, and Mick Jagger's kind of singing over the verse. Like it almost reminded me of like Fleet Foxes,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
And it's like what the fuck?
like modern indie kind of a thing.
Yeah, and I guess like a lot of like Stones critics and a lot of people that like talk about the Stones like take that song in particular, you know, and put it as one of their most like underrated songs of all time, just because of like how complex it is, like you know, how complex it is. Why is the word escaping me? Arrangement wise, I guess we could say.
Yeah. Yeah, especially because on this album they get into like they start jamming, you know, on some of them, and they do it sort of throughout their career, where you know they do a longer song with like kind of a breakdown sort of a thing, but this one just kind of moves.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about, I feel like I should save what I was going to say for this, but if you want to talk about freaking jams, like Can't You Hear Me Knocking is like
Fuck yeah.
the quintessential, I mean, jam track.
Yeah, most definitely. And you know, it's the early 70s, and it's funny to think side note, I've heard like or read John Lennon kind of talking about music around this time, and he wasn't into like the long jam stuff at all. He you know, just I guess he was into like shorter song styles, but he said something like, "Oh, these people just keep, you know, playing and then they'll go on forever.
Yeah.
Like, there's no nobody's writing a song anymore," which is interesting because you know if you just start playing guitar right now, a big part of like rock music, you know, and then there's 70s prog and so much that happened after he made those comments. You'd assume that long whatever jams are like almost essential to rock music.
Yeah, I mean, it became like a massive identity of rock music, but now that you mention it, I mean, the Beatles don't really have a ton of songs like that. But, you know, at the same time, like, there's still songs like She's So Heavy, you know, Don't Bring Me Down, some of their later stuff that does get a little drony and kind of jams out a little bit, but, you
Don't
know,
Let Me Down?
yeah.
Oh.
Oh,
Don't
yeah.
Bring Me Down.
Oh, whoopsies. But yeah, Don't Let Me Down. Basically, you know, so it kind of has these like drony, jammy elements to it, but
Yeah.
I mean, especially their early material doesn't have that at all. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, as far as like, you know, grooving and then hitting a groove and then somebody soloing over it, that's way more Rolling Stones than Beatles.
right, but yeah, okay. One thing connecting the Beatles to the Rolling Stones is the guy that did a lot of the keyboard work for this album. But his name is escaping me. Do you remember his name?
Is it Billy some shit?
Yeah, Billy Preston.
Billy Preston was on. I know that's the Beatles guy.
Yeah, no, he's the same guy on this album as well, on Sticky Fingers.
Oh shit! On the organ.
Yeah. So Billy Preston plays a lot of organ on Sticky Fingers. He plays on a couple tracks. I think he plays on Can't You Hear Me Knocking and I Got the Blues, and he might be on a couple other tracks as well. But yeah, he bounced around like between the Beatles and the Stones, and then after this, I think he played for George Harrison.
Another fun fact about Billy Preston is that he was the first musical guest for Saturday Night Live.
Oh, really? Like
Host, yeah. Host George Carlin, and then musical guest Billy Preston.
damn, is that on YouTube?
Yes, but it's pretty like it's very not what he is famous for, at least by us for organ. I think he's like playing bass. He has this exotic bass, and he's singing. And he, you know, he's amazingly talented and stuff, but it's just kind of not what we all know him for.
Right. Yeah, I guess
But definitely watch it. I mean, that's, George Carlin's fucking great on it. He goes out and does stand up, and they have the show, and
I'd be interested to see the Saturday Night Live cast too, like what the first cast of the show was.
Yeah, a lot of them became fucking the biggest stars ever after. So
yeah, was Chevy Chase in that? I'm pretty sure he was.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Like Chevy, who's the fucking dude that died? I don't even like
Belushi.
Belushi.
You don't like Belushi?
I'm not sold. I didn't like Animal House that much.
What the fuck? You didn't like Animal House, dude? That movie's fucking hilarious.
And then he used to do this impression of that guy, like Joe Cocker or whatever, singing with a little help, my friends. I don't know. I don't get Belushi.
Damn, that's a hot take, but I respect you.
Yeah, I mean, he's a legend. He died at the Chateau on Sunset. Famous hotel in Hollywood. For those of you who do not know, still open. Marilyn Monroe died there. Belushi died there.
Yeah,
John Bonham rode a motorcycle through the hall. Death Grips. Listen to their mixes for No Love Deep Web on there.
I'd like to go in there and check it out.
Yeah, I wonder what's like happening with it. I know it's like a hotel. Like literally, that's where like Lindsay Lohan, like all her trouble. Every time you saw her on the news, she was probably at the a Chateau Marmont.
That whole area of Hollywood right there, that little pocket it's got some weird shit. That's where the Scientology building is, right?
It's probably not far.
Yeah, not the blue one, but like there's another like major one over there, and they just have like all these weird gothic buildings. But anyways,
SNL, Billy Preston,
sick.
Chevy Chase,
yeah.
Dan Aykroyd.
Okay, Billy Preston is actually really fucking badass. Like, I want to look more into him as a person, but like the fact that he was essentially like that. He's the only person to play with the Beatles that wasn't a Beatle. He played in their last fucking concert, and he's also, on a bunch of Rolling Stones tracks, and also like the tracks that he's on, he fucking crushes. Like he's like a sick organist. Like he's playing amazing lines, and then like after that, he went on fucking tour with George Harrison. Like, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, he always adds a lot to the songs that he's featured on.
And he adds like the perfect amount too. Like he doesn't overplay, but like when he gets his moment, he just like crushes.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, I think he even like gave the Beatles a lot of oomph when they were kind of down. Yeah,
definitely. He added a totally new like flavor to it, and like kind of gave them all like inspiration.
Yeah. All right. So
okay,
back to the Rolling Stones.
Yeah, that's enough Beatles talk album. For a Rolling Stones podcast.
I know they won't ever get away from it.
Yeah,
the band's been broken up forever.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I guess it just makes sense historically, but
it just be like that sometimes.
Yeah. All right. I mean, we could start from the beginning. I can kind of go through, what I think of each track. Cause
Brown Sugar?
Yeah. Brown Sugar, man. Fuck.
Yeah. Classic Rolling Stone song. Yeah, one of their most famous songs.
Yeah, I guess, is that original lick Mick Jagger playing guitar on the very beginning?
Nothing to like what I know.
Okay.
So I don't know.
What I heard, and I would need to verify this, but I'm pretty sure about it. So the very first riff, before the drums come in or anything, is Mick Jagger. Mm-hmm. And he's just learning how to play guitar. He's on a couple tracks on this album where he's playing guitar, and it's the first songs that he's playing guitar on. And then after that, when it goes into that really dope guitar part, when the drums come in, that's back to Keith Richards. So
okay,
yeah. And Mick Jagger was writing this song when he was uh, I think on a film set, like recording filming a movie. So that's kind of like where that inspiration came from. But I don't know. It just starts out with, you know, that guitar line that comes in with the drums, and it just kind of really perfectly encapsulates like that blues guitar style.
Yeah, blues guitar style. It's a very rock and roll and dirty. They even mention like New Orleans, which is like very staple in rock songs.
Yeah, but they don't mention New Orleans in the way that we we think.
Yeah. But I mean, like, it just country songs use that sort of those sort of references to come off like hard or like gritty and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what this album like completely breathes.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, have you read the lyrics for this song?
It's about like right.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's crazy.
Sorry to say it like that.
yeah. It's fucking crazy. Like, but
Yeah, I think like they even stopped performing it for a few years or something.
yeah, I think that. Well, I was also seeing that I guess like Mick Jagger was interviewed about it in the '90s, and he was like, if I were to write these lyrics today, like I would have stopped myself. Like I would have been like, hey, this is too like fucking crazy. Like I would have censored myself. But it's almost like the instrumentation kind of like it like pulls away from it, and like I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. You know, it's a story, and like he's just explaining like kind of how he feels about it, and like it's art, but it's just like something that definitely wouldn't be made today, and also something that I never realized growing up listening to that song. You know, I just thought it was like an innocent song, and then like reading the lyrics, I was like, holy shit, like this song's about like fucking like slavery and like having sex with like slaves. Like that's insane. Like that's not what I was expecting at all.
Yeah. A lot of, you know, if you have like British people that are like just doing drugs and like writing about crazy shit,
Yeah.
you know, I guess you get something like Brown Sugar. But yeah, I mean, what a strange like way to go about writing a song.
Yeah, and also I'm sure it has like many meanings, like and different multitudes that aren't exactly as apparent with just like reading the lyrics on face value. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you read it, but I mean, also it's just when you do read it and like look into the lyrics, it's just kind of like, huh?
Yeah, it's just like facts. Like you're like, what? But
yeah, you never. Because it doesn't come off like that, like the way it sounds.
No, not at all.
It's like a pretty like rockin' record and stuff. And like, yeah, you said like it's not like in a fun way. They mention New Orleans. It's like the darkest shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if anybody's listening out there, check out the lyrics just you know, for shits and giggles. But yeah, I mean, all right. Well, the first time the song was played was at Altamont, which
that's a fun fact.
Yeah,
that's fucked up.
Yeah,
the song doesn't have good luck around it or history.
It has bad juju, but they still I mean, it's amazing song. But yeah, I mean, for anybody that hasn't seen the Rolling Stones documentary "Give Me Shelter," I highly recommend it, and it kind of helps put you in the mindset of where they were at in this era in the early 70s, late 60s. I mean, it's an amazing documentary. Have you seen it?
Yeah. I mean, I put it on. I remember this so specifically. And maybe this is not much of a story for the podcast. Yeah. But yeah, I put it on and I kind of like left and came back. I won't get into the details, but I've seen that footage like a billion times, and then especially that one time in the documentary about the Altamont gig.
Yeah.
For quick context, Rolling Stones played a gig. Was it them and the Grateful Dead? Did the Grateful Dead end up performing that night or no?
I don't believe so. I think it was just the Rolling Stones. I don't know.
But they were billed, right?
Yeah, I think they were billed and they didn't show up or something, or and I think maybe Santana played before them. Well, just keep going. I'll Google it.
I think Jerry's in the documentary because I remember seeing like Jerry talking about it with like maybe Mick Jagger or something about playing. But basically, why it's so famous is because the Rolling Stones for security had hired the Hells Angels because Altamont, it must have been like early 70s, or something.
It's in the
which
Bay.
Is like kind of it's kind of, you could say as far as popularity, because I don't know when that Hunter S. Thompson book came out, but the Hells Angels were becoming a household name.
Yeah,
so they were hired.
I mean, it really started in the late 60s, but the early 70s was when it kind of all started to get like, when shit kind of started to get real. They started kind of getting more of a reputation of crime and kind of being a bad group.
Yeah, we won't get too into like the Hells Angels. I don't know too much. Yeah, besides like some of the Hunter S. Thompson
and
stuff, but
sorry, just to jump back to it real quick. Yeah, the first act was Santana, and then I think the Flying Burrito Brothers.
Okay.
After, but yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, there must have been someone rowdy in the crowd, but one of the Hells Angels members ended up with a knife, I believe, killing a guy.
Yeah, and I guess Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young also played, and that was when the dude fucking got stabbed.
That's fucking insane.
Yeah.
Being murdered to like Crosby, Stills and Nash, like
yeah, so like someone got stabbed during Crosby, Stills and Nash, and then like I think when the Rolling Stones went on, like someone died.
Yeah, I just remember like Mick Jagger. He's telling everyone to be cool. Like, he keeps saying "be cool."
Yeah, he's like fucking chill out.
Yeah, it's like everyone be cool, in his like British accent, and it's honestly like pretty stupid. I get why it's famous and stuff, but some gang member stabbed a guy. I guess just because the Rolling Stones. That's a dumb move, but then also that time, like, people were doing all sorts of dumb shit. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if we wanted to put a whole meta-analysis on it, it's kind of like the death of the 60s. All this peace and love shit was going on, and then, like, the 70s kind of roll around, and this was kind of one of the quintessential moments of like, oh, the shit isn't all like daisies and flowers, like the Hells Angels is a gang, and like people are also like getting fucked up off their mind, and like people are starting to get hurt, and like shit is getting real. But like that's just one part of the documentary. Like
it's like a libertarian, like that's the type of shit that would start happening.
Yeah, totally. Like, I don't know, just like people are fucking around and finding out, like, basically. And like
that's exactly what libertarian.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. And like, it's after Woodstock and stuff, and that's just one part of the documentary, though. I mean, it's more of the Gimme Shelter is such a cool documentary because it's a total worldview into the biggest fucking rock and roll band, of all time, and in a really important moment in history in their career. It's not a documentary in 2023 asking them what they thought about that time. It's a window into that time, so there's a lot of cool stuff, in that documentary. Yeah. But another highlight was like, I mean, I guess going back to Brown Sugar, but this is just a highlight about the documentary as well, is that like, a couple of the tracks, especially the big ones, were written at Muscle Shoals, which was this like little beat down little like hole in the wall recording studio in, what was it, Alabama?
I don't. It's the first you're teaching me.
Oh, okay, cool. So yeah, Muscle Shoals. Yeah, it's if you look it up, like it's basically this super tiny town in like Alabama, and it's where the Rolling Stones recorded like a lot of their shit, because it was like a legendary studio for a lot of the old like R&B and like Motown singers. Um, I not Motown actually. Like I think it was more like blues.
Blues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was more of like a bunch of blues singers that like the Rolling Stones were influenced by. So they go to this tiny town in Alabama, and I guess they go to the wrong fucking studio, and they go to like some other like dingy studio and like record like they recorded like Wild Horses there. They recorded like Brown Sugar there. And I think there was another one too, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's just it's also in the documentary Give Me Shelter that they kind of go in there, but it's just cool. It just kind of shows like what their influences were at the time. They're heavily influenced by like that old like blues from the South, and it really comes through on this album for sure.
Yeah, they do a very good job at like finding a groove and mixing those like elements into their music without that 60s trying to come off different or find the new sound or like the avant-garde. Like there's not, I don't feel any of that pressure on these recordings.
Totally, because they're coming at it from a perspective of homage. They're coming at it from a perspective of like respect rather than like trying to do something new. They're trying to respect like all their influences, and their influences happen to be from completely different genres and styles and stuff, and that's what makes it like original.
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. And just, also the experience that they did have from trying all that kind of, stuff. So they kind of knew what to stick to and what sounded good. And
Yeah.
they were able to capture, that chemistry that they have.
Totally. I mean, to say they have great ears is an understatement. Like, they have the best fucking ears, like, of all time,
Yeah, which is another thing that we've talked about before, but they just have this insane, like, way of grooving.
Yeah.
And I can't quite explain it. It's like a sloppy but togetherness and such like a cool sound that they've been able to develop. But also that kind of makes me think, because of them switching, like having kind of newer members, like a newer guitar player and stuff, you wouldn't automatically think that it's like basically 3 or 4, I guess.
Yeah.
Guys holding it together, but they're holding it together.
Yeah, totally. I know that like the way I heard it described was like preparing for this, like, and it made a lot of sense to me, was like on their early 60s stuff, like with Brian Jones, Keith Richards, he had to take a bit of a more of a rhythmic approach, kind of staying in the pocket a little bit more. And then obviously the bass and the drums were always like tight as fuck. But like Keith Richards kind of had to stay in the pocket a little bit more. But when they switched guitar players on this album, it kind of freed him up to do more like improvisation or comping work, and kind of let the song kind of have its backbone on its own. So Keith Richards kind of takes on like a more lead role, more melodic role, in this, and it kind of gives it that like crazy feel, that this one has. And then like when we talk about Exile on Main Street, that Exile on Main Street definitely has, where it's like almost like not even in time, but like what's holding it down is like the bass and the drums. But I thought that was an interesting perspective, that the guitar player switch kind of freed up Keith Richards to be able to do more like fluid work, to kind of give the songs more feel rather than just like trying to hold it down.
Yeah, I mean, and it's turning him into the Keith Richards that we all know today, and like the sound of the Rolling Stones that we all know.
Yeah, yeah,
Right, this
definitely.
is like their 10th album or something, you know.
Yeah, it's like fucking like they're like 11th. You know,
Yeah.
it's crazy,
Yeah.
crazy.
Yes. So we'll move on. So I don't know. Did you want to do each song like in depth or?
I mean, we don't have to. It's up to you. I
No,
have,
it doesn't matter. Whatever.
yeah,
I was just gonna say, since I already started talking, you know, preparing for this album, you know, I was listening to it again and stuff, but uh, I don't think I'll ever like the song "Wild Horses," and that's one of like it's like a hit.
yeah.
Like I think they played it when we saw them and stuff, but I don't know
So,
what it is. But I don't
so
like that song.
when we saw them, which was like what 2021,
Yeah.
2022.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh wait, quick. Just um, as far as like how they move on, and you mentioned earlier, like
yeah,
you know they just kind of go. But we bought tickets to see them. I think August, and 2 weeks later, they announced that Charlie Watts would not be joining in on the tour due to a surgery that he was having, and then maybe a week and a half after that, he died, and then the next month we saw them with
yeah,
Steve Jordan. Yeah, so they move most definitely.
yeah. I mean, the way that I've heard them describe it is like we play till we fucking drop. Like that's how we do it, and I don't know. It's just amazing. They're like incredible, and also like rest in peace Charlie Watts because he's the fucking best.
Yes.
But the fact that they could turn it around like that and still sound amazing is really crazy.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say with Wild Horses, like I felt like they kind of didn't want to play it, and then like they put like a poll up. It was actually kind of interesting. I never been to a concert where they done this. They put a poll up on screen and they said text this number with what song you want to hear, and then Wild Horses won.
Okay.
Yeah,
I yeah, I think I was using the restroom during the text part because I remember coming back and they were playing that.
yeah. So they had you text in. I don't know if it was a list of songs or if it was like you just had to text the song. I'm pretty sure it was like a list. Like you could pick from like three or four, and then like the Wild Horses got chosen.
I wonder what the other ones were.
Yeah, yeah, but okay. Honestly, I like this song, but I do think like it's one of those songs. If you hear it too many times, like you do get sick of it. Like I learned it on guitar and I started singing it, and like after like about like a couple weeks, I was like, okay, I'm like kind of tired of this song. But I got a new burst of energy with it because I heard the Flying Burrito Brothers version, and it's actually really fucking sick.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, so basically the Stones, they wrote this song in like 69, I think.
Oof.
And Keith Richards and Mick Jagger, they thought that it wasn't that good. So
Okay.
so they were like, I don't know if this is good enough for a Stones record, and then they gave it to their friend Graham Parsons, who was like singing for like Flying Burrito Brothers at the time, and they turned it into a song. And then like that came out in like 70, and then like I don't know what the fuck happened, but like maybe the Rolling Stones like heard it and was like, oh shit, like actually this is a good song, and then they put it on Sticky Fingers. Yeah,
Yeah. It's funny how that stuff happens.
yeah, it is. You should check out the Flying Burrito Brothers versions, or anybody in the audience listening, because it's
Anybody.
honestly, yeah, it's honestly pretty cool. It's I don't know if it's better than the Stones version, but it's just as good, if not better.
You saying that they didn't think it was that good of a song has validated my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I see it. I like the song. I really appreciate it. I think it's a dope song. I see why it's big. But I could also see why they don't like it. Like, they didn't like it at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's like a big chorus that I don't think is that good. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. There's a lot to love on this album, so we'll get to that. The song after that, we mentioned it briefly. Can't You Hear Me Knocking? You could hear the Santana influence. Preparing for this, on the Wikipedia page, I saw that they were influenced by Santana, so that makes sense. But it's still, it's a pretty fucking rocking song.
Yeah, I mean, the main riff, like, is nothing that Santana would write, but the jam is a lot like, Santana. So it kind of like adds, their own flavor to what they would, their take on Santana.
Yeah, and also that's just like, it's sort of like now, like, not now, but I guess if you're jamming on like a song and you're like, okay, we're going to do like a middle part, like a breakdown, that's like the direction that most bands would kind of go in, from a rock sound to that, like, and then we're going to bring it back,
For sure. I think like when we talked about Led Zeppelin and what song is the one with the fucking middle part that's like
Whole Lot of Love?
Yeah, Whole Lot of Love. We kind of talked about how, it's not really like we appreciated it for the time, but it's not really like what people would do like in this day and age, and it kind of is like just I don't know. It's just like too experimental. Well, I feel like Can't You Hear Me Knocking is like the exact opposite. Like this is exactly like the type of jam, like middle part that you would hear like, these days, and that kind of makes sense, Yeah,
I think it's very fitting in this song. It doesn't sound like too much of a diversion from the regular groove, which is I love that fucking riff, man. And like the drums and just how it lines up, they're just fucking moving and grooving, and like a tight fucking band that like it's still like they have a lot of blues and like sloppiness, but like those tones, the guitar tones are fucking amazing. Mm-hmm. It's like what I want rock music to. It's what I like rock music to be.
Recorded in one take.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, is that what was happening on this?
So on this one, they recorded it in one fucking take, and then the song was supposed to end like at the 2:40 mark or whatever, when kind of Mick Jagger stopped singing. But I think Keith, or one of the guitar players was off in their own world, and they just kept playing. And then everybody kind of looked around after they already put their instrument down, and they were like, all right, I guess we're still going. And the whole jam was improvised.
I did not know that. That is very cool.
Yeah, the whole jam was improvised. So, and it was on the first take. And they were going to cut it out. It was just like a back thing. They just like left it in, and then when they were going to mix it, they were going to cut it out. And then I guess when they listened to it, they liked it so much that they're like, fuck it, let's keep this in. And that's why it's like 7 minutes long instead of like 3.
Yeah. That's like, cause this is a very like good song, but the spontaneous stuff like that gets in those moments are so rare. I don't want to say rare, because everybody, you could just kind of make music in your bedroom and do whatever. But as far as like pop music, or recording bands, I won't say like pop music, because a lot of pop or EDM or hip hop producers, they kind of do original stuff and push boundaries, like as far as like clipping and stuff. But if you're usually working with a rock band and they're going in to a studio and working with an engineer, there's usually a lot of like barriers and rules and stuff to do like the right way. And this album and like way of recording, and this in Exile especially, really like it doesn't play by like those rules, and
For sure.
these are some of the best sounding records ever. So I don't know what the fuck. Yeah, I don't know. It's like it's the being like spontaneous and stuff and being able to capture. They have the resources to, you know, have a studio kind of set up and I guess decent equipment to be mic'd, and so they can be spontaneous, but it does so much for like good music, I think, and you don't get a lot of that when people are, you know, recording music properly.
Well, yeah, I think like with the Rolling Stones in general, like they're very band based. It's very band based songwriting. So when they write a song, they write it as a band and then they record the energy of how they felt, you know, in that moment. You know, and like, you know, it's perfectly encapsulated on like these albums because there's like this organic feel to it, you know, and there's this organic energy, and it's more the recording. Okay, so there's something like Sergeant Pepper, like Pet Sounds, where the recording is an instrument in itself, right? Because of all the audio effects that are being put on it and all the experimentation. But then the antithesis is something like this, where or like Led Zeppelin, where like the mics, like they're just there to just get out of the way. You know, it's just like the recording is there to just get out of the way. You know, something like this, or, you know, All Things Must Pass by like George Harrison, you know, or even some of the John Lennon stuff. Like the microphones are kind of just there, like to capture what's happening in the room. And yeah, I think that's kind of like what you're kind of alluding to.
Yeah, most definitely.
You got to move. You got to move. That sounds pretty dope.
I just have this track list up. So is that a cover? Because it's saying the writers are not Mick Jagger. So it's an old... it's a Rolling Stones route. So yeah. Oh, it's not... It's a traditional song.
I dug kind of deep into the weeds on this one. So it's an old...
Have at it.
It's an old African American gospel standard from like around the 40s. And it's basically, you know, like any old gospel or folk standard. It's morphed over time, you know, with a lot of different versions. And basically, like, it was like this kind of peppier song. Like, I don't want to butcher like the way it was peppier, but like if you look up really old recordings of this song, it's kind of faster. It's got like a more upbeat feel to it because it's a gospel song, so it's supposed to be played in church. But then somebody like along the way like slowed it down. I forgot the guy's name, but they have it like on the internet. And he basically like made it super slow, like, and bluesy as fuck, and like just like in the feels, like he kind of like the equivalent
chopped and screwed it.
Yes, exactly. Like he equivalently like slowed and reverbed it, you know, in like 1960s version. And that's the one that inspired the Stones to make this cover.
Okay. It's probably had like a darker like tone to it.
Yes. But it's a cool song. It's a really cool song, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it kind of just like with the, you know, old Beatles covers, like it kind of just like puts you into their minds for that time period where they're at, their influences and stuff.
Yeah. So move on to Bitch.
Yeah, I don't really have much to say about this song. I don't really like... I don't not like it, but it's just like not... It doesn't really stand out to me.
Yeah, it's not my favorite either. Which is funny. Well, it's not that funny. It's not funny at all, really. But Dave Grohl, I don't know if it's his favorite Rolling Stone song, but he has a story about it,
Okay.
which I guess you could look up. I won't get into the full story of it, but I think Mick Jagger might have been hosting SNL, and usually they have some sort of an after party. I don't know if it was like a season. It was probably a season finale.
Okay.
Because I think it was some cast
Hold on,
members
pause.
like last.
I'm gonna pee. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right. SNL.
Yes. So we both had agreed that we don't really care about the song "Bitch" that much.
Bitch is mid.
Bitch. Yeah. But I guess Dave Grohl likes the song a lot, and I don't know why. I think they might have been hired. That is what happened. So, Mick Jagger was hosting the season finale, I believe, of SNL, and they were having a big party out. I believe it was outside. You know where they have like the ice skating at the Rockefeller Center. So,
Yeah.
the Foo Fighters, I think, were playing a stadium gig in either New Jersey or Pennsylvania, somewhere like nearby, but also not super close. So I think they did that stadium gig and then took a helicopter to the Rockefeller Center. And so, Saturday night
Badass.
SNL ends at like 12:35 or something like that. So then there's the after party that starts. So they're playing the after party, and Mick Jagger was the host. So they were like, "Oh, we love this song, Bitch. Like, could you like play that with us?" And he said, "Yeah." So then during their set, he went up on stage and performed Bitch with them, which is like, I don't think it's a song that they do. So I mean, as far as like being a rock fan and throwing out a deep cut to somebody like Mick Jagger, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll do that song with you guys," and he did it. Like that, it's a story that Dave Grohl tells.
Well, that's freaking awesome, dude. That's why Mick Jagger is like sick as hell. Like, he'll just be like, "Yeah, I could do that," and then he'll just do it.
Yeah, and also from that hosting gig, that it wasn't my favorite Mulaney special. I think it's his third one, but he talks about writing. He had a write with Mick Jagger, and I think they were doing a song for a sketch, and the way he described it was, he like would have a suggestion, and Mick Jagger would go like, "Not funny," and then we were like, "Oh," and then he suggests something else, and he'd be like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Is this how you write songs?" But just like not funny, and yeah, but I think he got upset about it, but whatever.
That is actually though
Trial and error.
How the Rolling Stones write music.
Probably, yeah.
I feel like they play something, they're like, shit, and then they play another thing, they're like, dope, and then they just like keep doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the next one is I Got the Blues. The main thing for me on this one that jumps out is that it has that kick-ass organ solo by Billy Preston.
Yes.
And it also has great horn parts. So a lot of the session guys on this one really, really take it to that next level.
Yeah, I like all the saxophone stuff. Yeah, on this, and like the horns go crazy. We'll get into more of that on the Exile on Main Street. But yeah, it's most definitely present on this album, and it's a good sound. I will get onto another rant, probably in a different episode, about the saxophone player's role in rock bands, and like more so the second half to late 70s and into the 80s. Every touring band, every like touring artist had a fucking saxophone player that they probably would bring up for a solo at one time or another. But this one, it really complements the music. It becomes like, I think, hack or whatever later on. It was almost like...
Yeah, this is like before it became hack.
Yeah.
But like, I think the 80s kind of really fucked up the saxophone, like, in popular music. I don't know. It just like...
It was like condescending.
Really became really overplayed.
It only stuck around really with Saturday Night Live theme music. The saxophone is usually the forefront of the
Yeah.
version of, because they kind of change it every season, like slightly. Uh, I guess we could get into it on another episode, but it was almost like condescending. Like, there's a saxophone player in the band, and then like at every concert, they like bring him up for like a guitar. So they try to make it like as cool as a guitar solo, when it's really not. I don't know.
I don't even know if this is a hot take. I think it's more of just a weird quirk of mine, but like I don't even like the way that a saxophone sounds like inherently.
Yeah,
Like something about the range that it's in, like it just makes me feel uncomfortable and I don't even like it that much.
uncomfortable and sleepy.
Yeah, like I'm just not a big saxophone guy. There's like certain instruments where I'm just like I'm not a big fan of the way that instrument sounds. Like something about that mid-range horn, but that's just more of a me thing. That's not even like a hot take. There's really no take about it. It's just something I don't like.
Bias against the sound of like a reed and woodwind instruments.
Yeah, like even a clarinet. Like I don't fuck with the clarinet either.
I don't. Yo, get Squidward's ass out of here.
Yeah, like fuck a Squidward. I don't do the clarinet. But
But yeah,
but on I Got the Blues, I can totally get behind. Good saxophone.
Yeah.
I don't know if this one had a sax solo. I
I think it's somewhere.
did it?
I think there's horns in it. Yeah.
There's for sure horns in it. I can get behind it on Sticky Fingers for sure. They're like the guy who played saxophone for this. I'd have to look up his name one more time, but he is actually like a very famous saxophone player that played on a lot of early '70s stuff with a lot of like amazing like players, and he's actually really renowned as well.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of Sister Morphine?
I like that song more as I listen to it. I like the darkness, kind of like rock. It's like kind of like a dark rock tone. It almost kind of reminded me of something that could play along in like a Tarantino movie. We've referenced that on the first episode with the Beatles. I think Taste of Honey, but it gave me that kind of vibe. It's not the best Rolling Stone song, I think, but I didn't not like the riff or listening to it as like an overall sound. And like this album and Rolling Stones music in general, it's like it's rock music that could be played around the hose, you know. You can kind of put it on, like I said, in a bar setting, and this sounds cool.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Like it could pass kind of in any situation. Like, if you're just like if you throw it on the touch tunes, like it's gonna do well. Like Sister Morphine. Yeah, it's kind of a slow, kind of a more trippy, like psychedelic a little bit in some ways track, and yeah, I could totally see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I liked it. I liked it, but I gotta listen to it a couple more times to really find out what like makes it stand out for me.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, Dead Flowers though is one of my favorite like low key Rolling Stones tracks.
Yeah, I was really digging
It's pretty
that
low
one.
key.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty low key song, but it's actually like really really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it should be one of their hits.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I like it a lot. I just didn't think about it in that aspect of it. Like, could it be a hit? But maybe.
Yeah, maybe the thing is like it's not really hit material. Like it's not really made to be a hit. It's not really like a single, but like it's just a really great song. I don't know. It's just a fantastic song. It's has like really good like descriptive lyrics, and like the music is just really accompanying those descriptive lyrics in a way that is like very quintessential Rolling Stones. The way that they kind of feedback off of each other, and it's just a cool track.
That's exactly what like the song has, like that chemistry that they have with each other as a band, and like
Totally.
Yeah.
It's on full display.
Yeah, and a lot of it, like as far as how I feel and like the weirdness that I don't get is like how the guitars go about playing, but like
Yeah.
it works so well because it's not like the tightest, cleanest, but like there's so much personality and energy to like what they are able to contribute. Keith Richards is able to contribute as a guitar player.
Yeah, I mean, it weaves, right? Like Mick Jagger and Keith Richards, they weave through each other, like in this perfect kind of dance almost.
Yeah.
Just really works. But yeah, and then there's Moonlight Mile. We kind of touched upon it. It's an awesome song. I mean, that's another one. Just like Dead Flowers, it's psychedelic in all the right ways, and it's just really complex in its composition. Actually, like kind of reminded me of something off of Sgt. Pepper, like with the way that the strings and the horns kind of weave through it. And the way that it's written, it's kind of has a really weird cadence to it that like you wouldn't expect from a Rolling Stones track.
Mm-hmm.
But it just works.
Yeah, it's not definitely something I would usually expect from a Rolling Stones track. A lot of it must just be their workflow and it's just timing, lightning in a bottle kind of a thing. It's one of the songs where I was listening to and was like pretty surprised. Like, one, this is really good. Two, this is very original. And
yeah, super original.
Yeah, definitely underrated. But I mean, you said it's as far as among like Rolling Stones fans and people who are interested in listening to these songs and albums, people catch it, like they like it and stuff.
Yeah, it's recognized. I mean, this is one of the biggest albums of all time, and it will continue to be. And I would say, if you've never listened to this album, like, don't let the first tracks deceive you. I know you've heard Brown Sugar before and you like it, but like really just like push through to the end and like really listen to this whole album, with a clear mind, and I know for a fact that whoever you are, you will enjoy at least some aspects about it. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's very gritty, but yet they have a lot of experience making these records to where they know what to do, and they also know how to play with each other. And you just get a lot of great songs out of it. Like, I almost don't know what else to say. It's very like
the instincts. The thing about the Rolling Stones and what's on full display on this album is just they have the most amazing instincts of any band probably ever, in terms of like a songwriting forward band. Like, the instincts are insane, and this album perfectly encapsulates that.
Yeah, most definitely, and is a very good basis as far as like who are the Rolling Stones, what do they sound like, recognizability. If you were to see them live, they would probably most likely sound like some version of this.
Yes, I would say also, to add on to that, how I would describe this album: if you've never heard a Rolling Stones album in your life, start here.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, I don't think that's wrong.
Start here. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.